Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Clallam EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We appreciate you being here today, and we are especially excited to have Mitch Kuntz on today. We um, we are presenting the information that we have about Opportunity Zones 2.0 and talking about where we are going to be applying to the state for an opportunity zone and what our plan is in concert with Jefferson County with the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone, where we were incredibly successful about 8 years ago, getting 14 census tracts, which represented more than 10% of the total census tracts for the state. And so before we start with our slides, I'm going to just ask that people put themselves on mute, or I'll put you on mute, and just so we don't pick up background noise. And we'd like this to be interactive, so please either raise your virtual hand or put your question in the chat and we will ask it. So with that, thanks for joining. And Mitch, go ahead and begin our slideshow.
It's looking forward to it. Let me get this screen pulled up. How's that look?
Looks great. Looks
Awesome.
perfect.
Okay. So yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Mitch Kuhns. I'm the communication manager with the Clallam Economic Development Council. I'm sure you've seen me before. I'm trying to coin the term mornings with Mitch when Colleen's not here, or mochas with Mitch. You guys can put a little vote in the chat, whatever you like better. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. Before we started the recording, Colleen mentioned that we're going to be regurgitating information on the Opportunity Zone 2.0, and it's really just because it can be complex. So we're going to do our best to break it down and simplify it, share some examples. So yeah, my goal is to provide an overview of the Opportunity Zone 2.0 program, some of the tax advantages, and then an overview of the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone. Additionally, Colleen, feel free to add context at any point during the presentation.
Thank you very much. I shall do so.
Great. So why invest in opportunity zones? It's kind of the big question here. But by reinvesting unrealized gains in a qualified opportunity zone, which includes in a real estate or a business, you can defer or reduce capital gains tax. Additionally, incentives and reward long-term investment that create lasting community value in rural communities. So some benefits. Opportunity zones encourage rural investment with tax incentives. The OZ 2.0 program includes tax deferral for up to 5 years, basis step up of 30%, and tax-free growth on investments and gains in opportunity zones for more than 10 years. We'll dive into this more in the upcoming slides, but that's just a rough overview initially. So timeline.
Real quick, Mitch, just to clarify that all of Clallam County and Jefferson County qualifies as rural specific areas. So we're considered rural. So that 30% is what 30% basis step up is what applies to our counties, regardless of which census tracts are selected.
Absolutely. And that's a great incentive. If you look at the laptop over here, you'll see all the orange areas. Those are the census tracts, and those are all considered rural census tracts.
And
You can
those,
see,
yeah, and those were the eligible census tracts. So there's obviously a lot of census tracts and a lot of population in that area that's not highlighted for Clallam County, but those census tracts were not eligible for opportunity zones.
exactly. So yeah, timeline. So in early 2026, the Washington State Department of Commerce held meetings for stakeholder feedback and informational webinars. Some key dates to pay attention to. Just yesterday, the application window opened. So it's live, it's open, and then the application window closes a month from yesterday, May 28th. As I mentioned, The image on this laptop here shows all the eligible opportunity zones in Washington State. Orange are the rules, and then blue are the non-rural.
So, and I just also want to add, anyone is eligible to apply for a census tract. However, to get maximum points, you need to have support from the Clallam EDC. We are called an ADO, Associate Development Organization, and you get more points if you have your county commissioners write a resolution that they support your application. So what we're trying to do, and we know that, last time around we received 10 census tracts. This next time, I would bet we receive one or two. So we are trying to figure out where are the most probable census tracts that we will be able, it'll be much more consensus competitive. So we're trying to ensure that we will have our best shot of getting census tracts selected as opportunity zones for 2.0.
So the application then that you're talking about is for organizations or locations to apply to be to to apply to be eligible for an opportunity zone investment in 2027. Is that what you're referring to?
So what I'm saying is for a census tract to be selected as an opportunity zone, it has to be selected by the governor. And the governor has said that each county, or if you had an owner of a property that wanted to do an opportunity zone investment on their land, or they thought about buying a piece of land and developing it, they could apply to the state directly, but it won't be very competitive, and it very likely won't be chosen. And so we are trying to canvass Clallam County and figure out exactly where are the most likely census tracts that will be selected by our governor to go forward to U.S. Treasury to be a selected census tract. So
All of the existing opportunity zone areas on the current map are not going to be there starting 2027. It's a brand new process with brand new maps.
That's
Okay.
exactly right, Lena. That's exactly
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So it could be we receive none. That's a
Yeah.
possibility. And again, if we were to receive the number of census tracts based on our population, we would get one in Clallam County. And I know there are a total of 18 census tracts. And then if your property is not located in a census tract that is selected, then you are not eligible for an opportunity zone, a QOF fund, qualified opportunity fund.
Mhm.
So this is the first step in the process.
Do they know, and I know Mitch had a slide a few slides ago, do they know when those selections are going to occur or
Yes,
decisions?
the timeline is right here. So we're in when the window is open, and then the state then will submit that to U.S. Treasury, and likely everything that the state selects will be awarded, but it's going through the Department of Commerce, and that Commerce staff is doing the work to evaluate it, and they have a whole matrix on how they're evaluating different applications, and you get more points if the ADO, meaning the EDC, has supported it. You get more points if you have a website like Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone. You get more points if you have cities, counties, and tribes writing letters of support. So what we are trying to do is have one application for these census tracts that we're going to show here in a moment, and then have lots of letters of support for these census tracts, and then hopefully we'll get maximum points, and we will get, as we're going to, for Clallam County, we're applying for 3 census tracts. Jefferson County is applying for 2. So anyway, you'll see that coming up here in a moment.
Okay.
Great
Thanks for
questions.
your questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty complex. That's why we created an example just to kind of break it down a little further. So the example is in 2011, a wealthy investor purchases 600,000 of Apple stock in a taxable account. So not a 401k. And now fast forward to 2026, they sell that Apple stock for $1 million. That means their basis is $600,000 and their gain was $400,000. So typically, if you're wealthy and you need to pay this capital gains tax, it's about 20% of the gain. So in this example, would be about $80,000 in capital gains tax.
Or 20% of 400,000. Yeah.
Exactly.
Plus
Everyone
Washington.
follow that? That would be a typical capital gains tax process.
At the federal level, and then there's state.
Yep,
Yeah, state taxes. Good point.
that's right. Anything over $1 million now.
That's the millionaire
Oh,
income tax. The capital
that's
gain
right.
is the, yeah.
Capital
got 'em
gains
all.
is about just under 300.
250? 300. Okay.
So here's some of the real Opportunity Zone 2.0 tax advantages. You can defer your capital gains taxes for up to 5 years. And after that, investors receive 30% reduction in step-up basis on their deferred capital gains tax. Additionally, if you hold an investment for more than 10 years, any new gains are completely tax-free at the federal level. Again, federal.
Yeah, this is totally just a federal program. And everyone says the real value is in that 10-year period. If you hold on to it for 10 years, that then becomes tax-free from a capital gains standpoint.
And it strengthens rural communities at the same time. So that's the big advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So back to the Apple stock example. If the investor rolls the gain into a rural qualified opportunity zone with a 30% step-up basis, the calculation is virtually it's 1.3 times that 600,000 basis, which equals $780,000. Now the gain is 1 million minus that $780,000 comes out to 220,000, and they don't have to pay on that 220,000 gain for the next 5 years. If the investor is taxed at that 20%, now you only have to pay 44,000 after the 5-year deferral because of that step-up basis, that 30%. And as we just mentioned, additionally, if you hold that investment for 10 years, you're exempt from that federal capital gains tax on new gains. And just to clarify again, you must roll these into a rural opportunity zone investment. Non-rural don't get the same tax benefits, and we'll dive into that a little bit further in the next few slides.
Yeah. So as an example of that, if someone sold that Apple stock and then they invested into a development, and that's what we're finding what most investors are doing, and Mitch has a slide on that. But that new investment, say that development, if you hold on to the development for 10 years and then sell it, when you sell it, any increase in value will not be taxed at the federal level. And again, that's the big value proposition. Any questions from anybody? I know that's a lot of information to absorb.
I do have a quick question. Do you know if I'm going to need to set up? I plan to do another one, and I have one already that was set up and approved, and I have both a business in one and a real estate development another, and then but they're both in one holding fund. Can I use the same apparatus, the same fund, and all of that? May I still use that? Or do I have to switch to a new entity because it's 2.0?
I don't know, Kelly.
Let's assume the track was the same,
Yeah.
or it was complementary, just to take one of the variables out.
Yeah.
I just curious if they're going to require 2.0 to have separate entities, or we can continue with the previous entity.
My answer is I don't know the answer to that, but we will ask folks at, I think EIG is probably the best entity to ask that of. EIG helped write the 2.0 and 1.0 language at the federal level. So Keenan Fickery, if and I'll ask him what that process is and CC you on the email, Kelly.
Okay. And do you know, one other one on just because you asked, do you know if you put the capital into the new fund and you set up the Opportunity Zone business, which is a development, then can you still in the new one borrow money against that to build and take the and does that still increase your basis by the amount of the loan?
I believe the answer is yes to that. But again,
Okay.
those kind of complex questions, I'm going to defer to Keenan and we'll do a specific email to him about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kelly.
Speaking of EIG, this slide is pulled from the EIG presentation that we shared a few months back, and it shows the total qualified opportunity fund investment by state. So you can break it out. Obviously, 46 states could receive more than 100 million in OZ capital, and then 24 states receive more than 1 billion. We are a leader in Washington State with the 2.4 billion. Anything to add on that, Colleen?
Yeah. So in the prior iteration of 1.0, Treasury didn't mandate that the investors report back on how much they invested. So all they know is how much was invested by state. And so anyway, Treasury has not been tracking that. This time around, Treasury is going to track it by which county and which census tract did it go into and what type of investment was it, so they can say this worked well or that didn't work well. Here's the trends. There wasn't that much investment in rural communities, we believe, in 1.0. And so that's part of the reason why they changed the law to say that if you invest in a rural qualified opportunity fund instead of just a regular qualified opportunity fund, that you would be able to get a 30% step up in basis rather than just 10. So, this is very complicated, and Kelly and Lena, I'm sure, could speak to the process of creating it. It's easier if it's just an individual that's creating it for their own investments. But if it's a broader investment where multiple people invest in it, it becomes really, really complex and expensive. And so it only makes sense if you have, tens of millions of dollars to invest, which means that local small investors can't really take advantage of this opportunity.
Colleen Robinson had a question which is related to the rural issue. And she said that the USDA, due to the population of the city of Port Angeles, it's no longer eligible as rural.
That does not affect this. This calculation is, and we'll, I think, get to that. There's a particular map that is being used, which is from that HUD produced at the end of February, that they're using that data to determine if a census tract is eligible or not. So we'll get to that map in just a few slides here showing which census tracts in Clallam County are eligible.
So here are some of the opportunity investments in rural areas and sectors. You can see real estate obviously is the front runner with all tracts and rural tracts. Information is right behind it. Construction is considerable as well. One thing I'd like to see a little higher is manufacturing, personally. Is there anything else on this slide you want to add?
So the information ones, that was data centers. So, and of course, we don't really have data centers, certainly not in Column County, but and our state law doesn't support location of data centers largely. And so anyway, and so we're looking at the orange bars right here, but by and large, where entities were interested in investing was in real estate, and then somewhat if they owned their own personal business. And but having an investor invest in somebody else's business typically did not occur in large quantities, just because there's so much risk involved with that. People like if you've got investment money and you're taking it out of the stock market as an example, they don't want a high risk investment. They want something that they know would be leased and they know would be, generate revenue for themselves over the long term, and that they could sell in 10 years and make a return. And so that really points to real estate.
Yeah, and I think real estate is a really good opportunity too, because if there are individuals out there that have real estate with no basis or very low basis, let's say you inherited something or were gifted something before someone passed and it has no basis, then you could take those gains from the sale of that real estate and invest it in another piece of real estate that's an opportunity zone investment. So, and there's no state tax when you're dealing with real estate sales. For the capital gains anyway.
Great point. And you could do a 1031, but then eventually, if you want to get the cash out of the investment, you get to roll it over into a 1031. But eventually, if you want to get the cash out, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. But this would enable, if you held on to it for 10 years, this would enable you to avoid that end piece tax.
And in your example, if it was money coming out of the stock market, it wouldn't be a 1035.
Correct. 1031.
1031,
yeah.
yeah.
Or 1031.
Right.
1035 is an insurance transfer, but yes, 1031, I meant. If one of the things I did want to mention, whether it's the same rule as before or not, one of the advantages of doing it into real estate as well is you move that money into the fund. You've got time to build it, usually a 36-month plan. Is it 36 or 31? I think it's 36.
I think it's 36.
I think it's 36.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's a bankable opportunity, right? So in one that we did here for a small neighborhood, we put in a certain amount of capital and then paid for the improvements and then got bank loans to build. So it amplifies your investment by that, but that also creates basis in the property to the extent that you borrowed against it. So that is that's a nice, and then, all of it, then you have the 5-year catch up, but even in the 5 years, as long as the property got done, you'll have some depreciation that can be used if you used financing to build the property. So then the depreciation can offset your recognition at the end of the 5 years.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Kelly, for adding those caveats. Very helpful.
It makes the economics work pretty well. And it is very encouraging for our community.
So Mitch, can you go to the slide that shows the whole county? Which ones are eligible first?
Yes, that would be, let's see here.
Or maybe just share let's show what's eligible first.
Okay.
So, and I know Kelly's driving, and while Mitch is working on that, so stop sharing this screen and then go to the state website. So Kelly, Dale asks in the chat, Kelly, can you describe the Opportunity Zone project you've been working on?
Yes.
And
by the
Dale
way,
is a retired CPA, by the way. And I know you're driving, so thank you for doing this.
No. And actually, I'm now parked. So
Oh, good.
I just had to get to Port Angeles. So the project that I was discussing is a housing project, and it is multifamily and has bought it as a raw piece of land with a tentative map and still forested. And then I transferred the money into an opportunity zone fund. The fund created a business, which is an LLC. Both of those are LLCs. And then that LLC goes about the development. And then once we were ready for construction, we did a construction financing package, and it's underway right now. Does that answer the question?
And are your LLCs partnerships or S corps?
They are partnerships.
Partnerships. Okay.
Yeah. The opportunity zone fund business. So you have the fund, and then below it you have a business. All of them are structured as partnership or taxed as partnerships, structured as LLCs. The everything below that, the property and everything, that's all in disregarded entities. In other words, taxed as partnership, but disregarded actually, because it's only a single member LLC.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, so this, zoom out just for a second here with the whole state, if you would, Mitch. So this is, these are the census tracts that are eligible in the state. And blue are census tracts that are considered non-rural or urban, so they only get the 10% step up in basis. And the yellow hashed census tracts are the ones that are considered rural and would get a 30% step up in basis. So very likely rural has, 3 times the advantage here. So more people would be investing in rural. So now if you'll zoom into Clallam and Jefferson counties, and this looks like, well, why are some swaths so huge and some swaths so small? They try on average, and these are all created by the Census Bureau, the census tracts, and they try to divide areas into where there are about 3,000 people per census tract. But as you can see, Jefferson County's that huge one there, that only has 1,872 people in it. No, I was wrong. 1,838 people in that census tract. And the reason why it's so large is because you've got the Olympic National Park there. So nobody lives there. And so you've got Brennan in that census tract, and then you have the Ho tribe on the west end. So that is one that that Jefferson County is going to be applying for. And I don't see David Balliff on yet. Is he on? I don't think so. I didn't see him. So
yeah, I'm here, Colleen.
Oh, you are here. So do you want to speak to any of this, David?
No, that's right. We're working with all of our folks, getting our letters from our city of Port Townsend, the county, et cetera, and we're planning to put forward applications for this tract we're talking about now, Brennan and the West End, in collaboration with the Ho tribe as well. They have an interesting project there, and we've got our big master planned resort in Brennan, and then our other will be that little tiny speck you see up on the Quimper Peninsula for Port Townsend. And a lot of interesting investment opportunities. And yeah, like you said, it's very competitive. So we'll see what we get. We're hopeful.
Great. Thank you. So that's what Jefferson County is planning on. Thanks so much, David. And David Balliff, by the way, is our counterpart over in Jefferson County. So Jefferson, EDC team Jefferson. And so let's zoom in here. So on the east end of the county, you've got these 2 census tracts near Squim, and they were designated as such because of the affiliation with the Jamestown tribe. But what we found in OZ 1.0 is that because of the sovereign nature of tribes, investors were very hesitant to invest with tribes. The tribes usually want to own 51%. And also in a lot of areas, they have their own reservation status. And so you can't purchase the property if it's on a reservation. And so Jamestown said, we want to support other areas, investment areas in Clallam County. And they, they did a lot of work trying to get investors to invest with them, and they realized it just didn't meet the goals of investors and meet the goals of Jamestown Tribe. So they're passing, they weren't interested. And then go over all the way to the west end of the county, if you would. Thank you. So these are two different census tracts, 2873 people in that one that is, we refer to it as census tract 24 because of the last few numbers there. And as you see, it qualifies. We were shocked that Forks no longer qualified as a census tract. When we looked at the data, so you had to be at 70% of the state's family median income, so household income. And so for this area, it's 56%, but click on Forks if you would, please. Okay, and theirs was 72. We don't think this is accurate. So this data comes from American Community Survey, and so ACS data, if you've heard of that. And the 5-year period prior to this, they said that the median family income in Forks was 56,000. And then when they put out the new data in February, they said the median family income had jumped to 85,545. No way. No way did Forks's median family income jump from 56,000 to 85,000 in 1 year. The problem is that they base it on surveys. They call some people, and whomever answers, they make an estimate. But if you look at the plus or minus characteristics of, the likelihood of it being incorrect, it was like, 45, 50%. So unfortunately, Forks is no longer considered distressed by these metrics. And so there's still, though, the Quileute tribe that has interest around here. And also we're hoping, though we don't have anything yet that is committed to, we're hoping that Campbell Global, that's owned by JP Morgan Chase, that owns, I think, 90,000 acres in this census, not Forks's, but the larger census tract, that they might invest potentially in some of the lands where they own. So that would be probably closer to Clallam Bay CQ, but if you click on that one, if you would, nope. That one. So we are likely going to be applying for this census tract. We're not doing the corner one, so click on that one again if you would. Yep. Okay, it's blocked by that. But that is the Makah Tribe Reservation. And again, that's a reservation. No one can buy land there. So investors want to own the land so that they can sell it in 10 years. And there's just so many complexities if an investor cannot own the land. So, and now let's move over to Port Angeles. So then you've got this section here that is basically the city of Port Angeles. And you'll notice all the other areas are not eligible. So we had to work with only the eligible census tracts. So I believe that's 8 that were eligible in our county. And again, previously 10 were eligible. And now in under 1.0, 10 census tracts were eligible out of all of these. And now only 8 are. because they lowered the threshold from 80% of family median income down to 70%. And so according to their data, which again, I totally question the data that they have for the city of Forks, these are the 4 areas that are eligible. So now, Mitch, if you'll go back to their slide deck, if you would, please, and show these in more detail and where we know of potential investments. Here. So you've got in this first one, which we refer to as 7, which is that large one that encompasses the airport, Fairchild International Airport, and goes all the way out through the Spit and a lot of the waterfront. There are 4 different potential investment areas or sites. Pacific Trail side is Kelly Kidwell's development, where he would do continued development. And by the way, these locations aren't exact. We're just trying to give you an overview. And Port Angeles Composites is located at the airport. They could potentially invest there. Citizen Air, owned by Kelly Kidwell, would potentially, he could add some investments into that location. And then the McKinley site. So, and we're working with some entities that are potentially interested there that I think we can get letters of support before we have to submit our application. And again, you get more points for every investor that writes a letter for you that says, I would invest and I would plan to invest in this census tract. If it was selected, you get more points for that. So, and then the other census tract is census tract number 9. And the locations there that could potentially have some investments is with Eric Dupar and Anian Shores, and then also the Wharf, and with Eric Marks. So, but it includes that entire census tract. So any property within that area could have some could use the same program. We checked in. So the last time around, under OZ 1.0, the census tract number 10 was not eligible. And I checked in with the Red Lion to see if they would be interested in doing a QOF, the owners of the Red Lion. And they said, no, they would not, that with the shoreline requirements and cultural artifact concerns, they don't want to do any digging and any major permits there. While they own it, they have no intention of improving the property beyond painting and interior remodeling because of the challenges associated with being on the waterfront. So that's why currently, unless we hear from multiple investors saying, no, I have property or want to buy property in 8 or 10, we intend to apply for census tract 7, 9, and the one Clallam Bay all the way down to where the Quileute tribe is, that's number 24. So any input or thoughts there, we're happy to take it. This is also a fact gathering opportunity for us to learn about where other investors may have interest. And another one is on Tumwater. The guys that own Olympic Electric purchased a bunch of properties there. And they too have an interest potentially of investing in those properties. And so that would be in census tract number 7.
Colleen, are they still in this one? Are they still requiring that it be a new acquisition of property as opposed to being able to own it before the census is named, and then when it's named, being able to build on something that you already own? Are they going to allow that on this one?
If you already own it, it's all about new money going in. So
Correct.
you can own something and then, but it's the new money that you put into the property, and it's okay if you already own the land.
Okay, good. Good deal.
All right. So any questions? If not, I think
Are
we
you
can
going to go
go-
over to the east side of the county?
Yes, we can. So go back to instead of the slideshow. So yeah, on the east side of the county, there's two census tracts there, which totally shocked me that Happy Valley and Bell Hill, they say is a distressed area. I don't see it. I don't see it. But so click on that. Yep. They say that the median family income, and most of this area, mind you, is DNR lands. So the only areas that are really populated are at the north end of this. And yes, that property is blend, but again, Jamestown Tribe said we've tried opportunity zone investments for tribal lands, and our goals and their investor goals just don't mesh. They don't line up. And so then anyway, Dale, any questions about that? That was basically the Happy Valley tract. And then click on that one. Yep, that one. There's very little commercial property there, and it's zoned so that it's zoned rural residential. So you can't do multifamily housing there, which multifamily housing is very often something that people want to invest in using these kind of funds. So you can't do that. And again, a lot of this land is zoned for 5-acre parcels, or it's owned by DNR.
I see the John Wayne Marina, I think, is in that track.
It is, but single family is not. And I did talk to Seabrook, and let's see, can you go in closer there? Yeah, let's see where exactly. West Quimby Road. Yeah, White Feather. So it's not Seabrook, that Seabrook property is not in that census tract.
Got it.
See,
Thanks.
see where White Feather is? Yeah. So it's not eligible. So anyway, any other questions? Good question, Dale. Thank you. Thanks for prompting us to explain why we're passing on that property. And I talked to Matt Hewish and to Carla Boughton, who's the Director of Community Development at the City of Sequim, and they both understood why we were not going to pursue those two census tracts. If we only get one census tract out of these 8 that are eligible, we've really got to make the case, and we'll try to get as many as possible, but I'd be highly surprised if we get 8, if we get 3. Because, and you can take the slideshow down now, Mitch. Thanks. Sorry, we didn't finish this slide. Yep.
I had one
Go
more.
ahead, you cover that. Go ahead,
I mean,
Mitch.
we already touched on it, but more or less, the advantage of investing in a rural opportunity zone is that 30% reduction in step-up basis, where the non-rural is a 10%. So just an example, rural, with that same 600K basis we use as an example, it'd be 780K, where non-rural, you're looking at 660K basis.
And that was the example, if you sold it for $1 million.
Yeah.
And you would be paying, your gain on the non-rural would be 340,000 you have to pay taxes on, whereas rural, it would be 220,000. So when we've talked to our colleagues that are ADOs across the state, there are a lot in Everett that in Opportunity Zone 1.0, Everett received 0 census tracts for opportunity zones. And so now they're saying, okay, we didn't get any before, we're going to get some now. And they've got a lot of investors that are interested, but there aren't rural ones. So, whereas like Spokane has several that are rural, they're going to try to get a bunch, and our state can only have 98 in total. So we are competing with the entire state. The other thing, yeah, thanks, Mitch. We created some time ago, and Mitch has done a fabulous job of updating this website. This is emeraldfunds.org, which this will help us, I think, with our application, get more points. And so both Jefferson County and Clallam County will be using this in our applications for each of these census tracts. And what we're going to be doing is getting letters, say, from the county commissioners, writing a letter for all 5 of these census tracts that we'd be applying for. So it is cross-jurisdictional, and we're supporting their application. They're supporting ours under Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone. So it'll, when you have a collaborative effort where everybody is supporting our combined applications, then, that we found that worked really, really well the first time around. So we'll actually have 5 applications, but we'll have letters of support for each of those 5 census tracts. And then we'll have individual letters from investors for a particular census tract, if that makes sense.
One other thing I wanted to point out, if you go to the Opportunity Zones 2.0 tab and scroll down, obviously here's the recent news, but there's some really good resources that we added. Some coming from the Department of Commerce, and then EIG, Economic Innovation Group. They really seem to be the experts on this stuff. So you can click their resource hub, gives you a ton of information there. And then just what to expect next. If you click there, and then here's that interactive map that we showed you all earlier from the Washington Department of Commerce. If you go over to the tax advantages, pretty much what we've been talking about this whole time during the presentation. So I know it's pretty complex. You can go to the website and dive into a little bit more, or feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
Right. Yeah, we had hoped in 1.0 that we could create a fund and lots of individuals could put money into it. That just was way too expensive. You would have had to have a full-time professional managing that. And, and we had all sorts of businesses that were saying, oh, we want investment. But again, an investor doesn't want to invest. It's so much more risk to invest in a business that could fail, and then your investment goes to zero, relative to, I want to invest in some real estate, and they know that that asset will always be there, barring a Cascadia event or something. But that is a much lower risk investment to invest in real estate. So, any questions or follow-up comments from anybody? All right. Hearing none, I think we'll give you 8 minutes of your day back. Mitch, thanks so much for putting that website together, and a great slide presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for
You
joining us,
rock.
everyone. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.
Nice job, Mitch. Thanks, Colleen. Have a good day.
Thanks, Paul. Bye-bye.